Welcome to the Truth Over Comfort show. Today I'll be providing an example of a politician's hypocrisy, what they say in public, and then what they actually do behind the scenes, and the fact their actions generally speak louder than their rhetoric. The example today will be David Lammy, who is a Labour MP for Tottenham. I'm not really here to get into his career, what he stands for or represents as an MP or anything like that. He's just a good example of a politician's hypocrisy in the example I'm providing. I'm not a party politics man, left versus right. That's not the video I'm doing today. So, as I said, David Lammy is an MP for Tottenham, but he's also, the Shadow Secretary of State for Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Affairs for Labour. Obviously, the Conservatives, the Tories, are currently in power, but he still, has this role in the Labour Party. Again, not really here to talk about him as an MP, just an example. So he puts out this tweet July 9th, 2022. And it's about the clip that was going around at the time about Rishi Sunak, where he's a bit younger doing an interview, I think, with the BBC, where he says his friends are aristocrats. And then he's like, oh, I'm working class people. And he's like, actually, no, not working class people. No one's here really going to disagree with that. He's making fun of it, saying, he's going to be a prime minister for the few, not the many. Again, not really anyone's going to disagree with that. Rishi Sunak, I think, is the richest prime minister the UK's ever had. Obviously, extremely posh. Obviously, his wife and her parents, obviously, very well off. Most prime ministers, pretty posh. Tony Blair, David Cameron, Boris Johnson. I mean, Boris Johnson's name is Alexander Boris DeFeffel Johnson. I mean, it's a joke of a name. Pretty posh voice. So is his dad. Again, side issue. So he puts out this tweet, not really in disagreement with it. However, kind of leaving out something very interesting. So obviously Rishi Sunak uses the word aristocrat, royalty normally, or, I guess those socialite types. A month before David Lammy puts out that tweet, he's at the Bilderberg meeting in Washington in June for 3 days, where he's literally mixing with the elite of the elite, including aristocrats. The King of the Netherlands is there. For some brief background on the Bilderberg group, again, you can check their website, Wikipedia. Also, just recently did a video with Charlie Skelton on the Bilderberg group. He's put out similar comments. Also, this is kind of stemming from a declassified UK article about David Lammy, so I'll give them credit. Again, I'll kind of explain it at the end. But some brief background on the Bilderberg group. It was founded in 1954 by Prince Bernhard of the Netherlands, and they meet for 3 days in secret with no press oversight. Over the years, you've had people like David Rockefeller, Henry Kissinger, Tony Blair, Queen Beatrice of the Netherlands, lots of other royalty, heads of corporations, investors, arms corporations, heads of intelligence, and NATO that still go up to this day. They have a steering committee where the same people are there, set the agenda, and put out the send out for the attendees. Is about 130 these days. They've also very integrated with big tech. Google represented, Facebook, AI, all of that sort of things, and Microsoft as well. So they meet for 3 days in secret, incredible amount of security, diplomatic, police, prime ministers go. We had in the last few years, we had this year in Lisbon, Prime Minister of Holland, Finland, Denmark, the ex-Prime Minister of Sweden, lots of politicians there, as again, head of NATO, ex-head of MI6, GCHQ, which is the UK version of the NSA. Again, NATO Secretary General there. So I don't want to get too into it. Lots and lots of elite types, powerful people meeting for 3 days. David Lammy is one of those attendees. So it's very ironic that he puts out this tweet about Sunak being, talking about representing the few and not the many when he's at literally a secret meeting that represents the few and not the many. But not only that, he has his trip his flights, his meals, everything paid for. And we get to the person who paid it for him. So not only is he attending this meeting with the rich and powerful, that includes people from the media, not reporting on it, but as attendees from The Economist, The Financial Times, Bloomberg, The Atlantic. The media oversight doesn't exist. They have Chatham House rules where nothing can, that's been spoken about can be reported on. And in 2022, which was the meeting there in Washington, only one mainstream media outlet even reported on the meeting, which was The Guardian, which was the person I interviewed, Charlie Skelton, who's been covering it since 2009. No one else reported on it, not the people who attended it. Funny that. So he's mixing with all these people, and it's literally paid for. So let's just go through it. Again, this is going to be a quick video. I'm just going to go through the next slides. Not slides, pages. So everyone's seen this clip. I'm just going to play it in case you didn't. This is the tweet he put out July 9th, 2022. So this is what he says. Rishi Sunak, on camera, says his friends are aristocrats and members of the upper class and not working class. He would be a prime minister for the few, not the many. Again, not going to disagree. I'm going to play it. It's a 7-second clip, just in case you haven't.
I have friends who are aristocrats, I have friends who are upper class, I have friends who are, working class, but not working class, but I have friends who are aristocrats, I have friends who are upper class, I have friends who are, working class, but not working class, but.
So obviously there, it's hard not to laugh at that. Clearly very posh, I'm not working class. So he puts out this tweet. Fine. But hang on a second. As I said, July 9th, 2022. Well, the Bilderberg meeting, the 68th, took place to the 2nd to the 5th of June, 2022 in Washington. I'm not really going to go too much through their agenda. It was very war-focused because of the Ukraine war, but also very specific on China. So Russia, Ukraine, China, Indo-Pacific, again about China, Sino US tech competition, again about China, and then the economy, etc., etc. And this is the agenda we get. They literally just put out these words. We don't get anything more. And then the participants list. So just to show you, David Lammy, is actually there. There we go. David Lammy's there. Shadow Secretary of State for Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Affairs, House of Commons. So he's there. So, as I said, he is mixing with the King of the Netherlands. He's also there with the head of the CIA. He's also there with GCHQ, not coming up, right. He's also there with Henry Kissinger. Why is this not working? So Henry Kissinger's there. This year he went to the Lisbon conference. He is turning 100. You had loads of people from the EU, prime ministers, people from Santander, people from BP, the CEO of BP, the CEO of Shell. Again, I don't want to go through again and again. I'll just do one more. So we have NATO. Why does it do that? Jens Stoltenberg there for NATO. So there you have it, lots and lots of people there. So what's interesting? As I said, this meeting is paid for by someone. So this is the House of, Parliament, the Lords. Sorry. This is the Parliament website that talks about MPs and people from House of Lords where they register their interests, potential conflicts of interest. So as you can see, Bilderberg's there. So the name of the donor, Newbridge Advisory. We will get to that. And it's for the Bilderberg Association. As you can see, he was, reimbursed, for over £5,500. That's for the airport, flights, the taxis, the meals, everything adding up. He had everything paid for. And it literally said the purpose of the visit to partake in the Bilderberg meeting 2022. And it even gives, the dates. 2 to the 5th of June, 2022, which is a month before he puts out that tweet, and it's in Washington. So who's this Newbridge, what was the exact name? Newbridge Advisory. So let's just go to that. Newbridge. So John Sawyers, who's from Great Britain, he's the executive chairman of Newbridge Advisory. Why did he pay for it? Who is he? So as it says, it literally just lists that. But what it doesn't tell you is that he sits currently as a director on the board of BP, British Petroleum. And not only that, he was the head of MI6 from 2004 to 2009 to 2014. So he's not even like an MI6 head in the 90s. He's quite a recent MI6 head. And before that, he was also the ambassador to the UN, ambassador to Egypt. He was a special representative to Iraq, which was in 2003, just as the Iraq War went on. And just before that, he was a foreign policy advisor to Tony Blair. So this guy who posted a tweet about Rishi Sunak and Aristocrats is with Aristocrats being paid for in a 3-day meeting by someone who sits on the board of BP and is the ex-head of MI6 up until 2014. Can you get really much more elite than that? How hypocritical can you be? How brazen can you be, or that confident, that the mainstream media won't just write a quick article saying, hey, David Lammy, we saw that you put that tweet out about Aristocrats a month after you attended the Bilderberg group, which was paid for. Even his meals were paid for. I mean, this guy isn't poor, is he? Like, they get a decent salary on top of, stuff paid for and getting lobbied. And he's getting his meals paid for by, someone who sits on the board of BP. So as I said, here he is, John Sawyers, sits independent non-executive director of BP, joined 2015, literally just after he stepped down from MI6. He's also a director of the Bilderberg Association in the UK. He's also a senior advisor to Chatham House, funded by the people who are there. Big oil, the arms industry, governments, the Foreign Office, the US government, NATO, etc., etc. Global advisor to the Council on Foreign Relations, you could go on and on and on. And it also talks here, who's the head of MI6. And it says, executive chair of Newbridge Advisory. So this is some company he started. Not going to go into too much detail about it. Going to start wrapping up soon. But again, here, founded by Sir John Sawyers. And he basically gives advice to, corporate leaders and investors on geopolitical and political risk. As, you go over to his little profile, it talks about, he was the MI6 chief. But before that, he was a member of the UK National Security Council and the Joint Intelligence Committee. He was the ambassador, so we're here now, sorry. He was the ambassador to the UN. He was a political director of the Foreign Office, special representative in Iraq, which was in 2003, ambassador to Cairo, capital of Egypt, foreign policy advisor to Prime Minister Tony Blair. Quite a career. And what's interesting, he's a special representative to Iraq in 2003. BP is the first oil company, along with PetroChina, in 2009 to get the first oil deal in Iraq. He then goes and he's the MI6 head, and a year after he steps down, he's on the board of BP. How funny. And it even talks about, in BP's press release, how literally from 2003, they started doing surveys for the oil fields after not being in Iraq for 35 years. Again, I'm not saying the Iraq war was all about oil. There's lots of different reasons. It's interesting, his political career, how he ended up sitting on the board of BP during that time. Again, a side issue. So I'll start wrapping up here because the main point obviously was about political hypocrisy. Dave Lammy puts out this tweet that most people would agree with, but very misleading and deceiving, that he says, that Prime Minister will be for the few and not the many, when he's at the Bilderberg group, who are the few and not the many. And, people like Tony Blair went there before he was Prime Minister. Same as Bill Clinton, lots of others. You can even hear Tony Blair. He says to Luke Radowski of We Are Change, he asked him about Bilderberg in the 90s. He's like, it was great. Yeah, really good meeting. Well, interesting that when he was asked about Bilderberg when he was Prime Minister in a written statement in 1998, he said that no one in his government had attended the Bilderberg group. Oh, another lie from Tony Blair in Parliament. Well, you know, nothing compared to Iraq, which a lot of these guys seem to have in common. Oh, and BP. But anyway, side issue. Dave Lammy. I'm not here to, you know, grind the rest of his political career. Don't really know too much about him. I just thought it was a great example of what they say in public, what they do privately, and, you know, where they actually go privately as well. So make of it what you will. Again, this isn't about party politics, left or right. Not into that. As I've stated, not going around in circles. Credit to Declassified UK. They have an article called Washington's Man in Labour. David Lammy, Charlie Skelton, them and others, you know, put on Twitter about the fact that he went to Bilderberg and it was paid for by John Sawyers. Again, my knowledge in John Sawyers comes from Declassified UK writing an article about all the different intelligence and government officials with a revolving door with oil going both ways. Again, oil heads and, you know, members of the board going into politics, etc. But I'll leave it there. You know, whatever you already thought about David Lammy, hopefully I taught you something new. Again, credit to Declassified UK, Charlie Skelton. If you want to learn more about the Bilderberg group, go on their website, go on Wikipedia, check out some of the old participants. There's many. There are some articles out there by the mainstream media recently, a lot more quiet. And as I said, you know, check out my recent interview and just go through Bilderberg's website, the participants who recently went. Michael Gove went in 2022. Tom Tugendhat's been in the last couple of years as well. So, you know, lots of people going that are of interest in the UK and around Europe. EU commissioners, there was 3 this year. Lots of people going. So again, thank you for listening, and I hope that you learned something new.